Hello everyone and welcome to The Joy of Painting. My name is Jack Masters and welcome to my first official video. I have been looking forward to doing this for some time, so let's crack on. And today's video is going to be all about this bad boy. So the Warhammer commemorative series Goff Rocker. I've been looking forward to doing this model for a very long time now. In this video I'm going to show you how to get from step A, which is building it and prepping it, and going all the way to the final finished product. So I hope you enjoy it, and come join me as I show you how to paint the Goff Rocker! So, let's see what the Goff Rocker has inside for us. So, as you can see, it's the Warhammer commemorative series. It's my first one that I've got. Something that I really have been looking forward to getting for a long time since they announced it, and the music video was fantastic. It was quite something that I really thoroughly enjoyed, especially for me being a massive Goff player and remembering the originals since I was a kid. So yeah, it just shows you the back and the front, so let's get this open. It's all quite interesting. You never know what's going to be inside. You never know. Got to make sure this is all nice and clean, because you never know. This could be quite flimsy. Oh, goodness gracious. Come on. Oh, okay. Interesting. So, got a nice little pamphlet here showing, I assume, how you put it together, etc. So that's not too bad. Ah, okay. It's not too bad, I have to say. That's pretty cool. I mean, I was hoping that you get playing instructions, because I want to try and use this in the game, but maybe try and find some rules for it. And then we've got the sprue itself. So me being playing this hobby for now 23 years, I am really starting to like how Games Workshop's doing kind of not monopose stuff, because I'm used to the different kinds of poses you can make. So these new single pose ones are very interesting, I have to say. But you know what? For the start of a miniature, it's actually quite good. The detail is phenomenal. Like looking at the Goff Rocker's face, the guitar is amazing. It's wicked, and even like the stick on mic is going to be fantastic. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll get this ready to spray up, and then I will come back and show you exactly how we're going to paint it. So as you can see, the first step which I followed was airbrushing the basic Elysian Green over the top. This is basically to give it a nice starting coat. The reason why I use an airbrush is because it's just a lot easier to get it onto the model, because if you don't, I mean, you can just hand paint it, etc. But once it can sometimes not basically produce the best result, and it could potentially not do the right, get the right finish you're after, basically. So going for an airbrush is just one of the best ways of getting a nice clean basic colour scheme for my green skins, and I would definitely give it 2 coats, just because it gives you a little bit more of a leeway to the next step, which will be quite simple, and it is quite satisfying, to be fair. So as you can see, what I'm doing right here is applying contrast, the Ork Flesh over the model. This is just to get the pour, get into the recesses, and make sure that just looks the part. As you can see, I'm using one of the makeup petri dishes, just because it's very easy to mix stuff inside it, and also once it's done, you can reuse it if you're doing multiple green skins at once. I'm applying it with a Warhammer Sit Still shade brush, just because they're really simple to use, and as you can see, that's the kind of consistency you want. That's probably 1 part contrast, 2 part lahmian medium, and as you can see, I'm just applying it over the model like quite liberally. With this, just make sure that when it's going over there, just to take out any of the, if you can see it's pooling, just make sure that it's basically not pulling as much, and just try and get a nice even coverage over the entire model. and then once it's dry, you'll be quite satisfied with the results. And if you wanted to stop there to gaming standard, that's absolutely fine. But as I said, this is going from step A all the way to step Z to get to the point where you're really satisfied with an orc on the tabletop standard that you're proud of. So the next step is quite fun and it's quite therapeutic. So what I'm going to do now is basically recover the model with Elysian Green. However, this time I'm going to leave the recesses in that shade that we've kind of used. This is just because it gives every part of the model a bit more definition. You can then see as I'm applying the Elysian Green to the muscle that I'm not touching the underbelly of the muscle just because that's where the light wouldn't hit. And as you can see, I'm applying the Elysian Green all where the face is, where like the mouth and the cheek and the lip. And just take your time in this respect, because then what you can do is you'll see eventually all the highlights start to make the model really pop and just become really quite interesting. So then the next part is what I would call the old way of Citadel painting, which is where we mix paints into one another. So this next step is going to be Elysian Green mixed with Ogryn Camo, about 50-50. As my brush is trying to tell you on the screen, this is definitely a stage where you want to take your time with this, just because this time you want to really hit the places where the light will hit, and then we're going to just gradually get lighter and lighter and lighter. I always start off with the face just because that's where most of the you can see where the most emotion and like details are. So as you can see, I'm just hitting the cheekbones there, like the jawline coming down, and then just hitting the nose, the jaw, the top of the jawline, and then working my way down towards the lip and the chin. And just, it's definitely, I think orcs in regards to their kind of facial features are quite defining, and, you know, you can spend a really lot of time on this, and, you know, it's just quite fun to see what you can do with the muscle work, and, you know, just kind of draw out how you want your green skins to look in terms of like their skin tone, etc. And always hit the bruises as well. So the next step is going again a bit lighter, and this time we are going to just do the next highlight of straight Ogryn Camo. This is going to be pretty much going on like the tops of the original highlight. So again, this is where we're going to take our time and be very, very careful, because we don't want to recover what we don't want to like cover it completely. So as I said before, like the more defining features would be in the green skin's head, his lips, his like the top of the bottom of the nose, his lips. You want to kind of go, if he wasn't wearing a hat, you'd go for top of his ears. And just, you really want to hit the jawline. I do apologize about the blurriness, like trying to stay in focus. However, oh, there you go. Yeah, I've done the bit of the top. So where the ear is, you do a little bit of highlights. But apart from that, just do the areas where you think the light would hit from where the direction would be. Okay, so the final highlight is Ogryn Camo mixed with Flayed One Flesh. And on this part, you really just want to hit those key areas. So that's like the jawline, the face, the little bit of the cheekbones, the top of the ears, and also the top of the muscles where you can see on the right here. I also, in this part of the video, I decided to do the skin for the hands of the stick bomb and the guitar as well. So you'll see after that is the final product. And as you can see, I'm doing the bruises on his arms, on his chest, because that's where kind of the normal skin would start popping up and the green would turn to kind of normal colour. So after that you'll see that the skin tone is on. And with that, the skin of our orc is now completed. So you have accomplished a green skin which is quite defined. So pat yourself on the back, because making this skin tone is something which is quite incredible. And I mean, when you see it finally done with all the other colours, it does look quite fantastic. So pat yourselves on the back. So as my brush is telling you, what we're going to start off is we're going to go from the lower part and then go up. So the next step is we're going to start paying the lovely amplifier squig, and I'm sure you're going to love this because it's fun. So what I'm going to do is start with a base coat of Evil Sunz Red. Now, like the Goff Rocker and my normal orc skin tone, I use layer paints because I just find that they're a little bit more, they're better to work with, just for certain schemes. And I know for a fact that I should be using base paints because they go on quite well, but Evil Sunz Scarlett is such a vibrant red and such a like a very bright red. It's perfect for squigs, and with this, I would definitely say the whole Duncan Road special of 2 thin coats, just because it allows you to get to the point where you're happy with the skin tone. You've got a nice base coverage, and after that you can then start to really get into the details. So take your time with this one. With the squig, it's very simple just to go around and just trying to hit every kind of detail, just because after it's completed, you can then move on to the really fun part of the ink or the shading, and it's quite fun actually, to be fair. So after you come back with 2 thin coats, you can then move on to the next step. And now we move on to the next part. So what we're going to do is we are now going to wash the red skin all with Carroburg Crimson. This is a very nice red, and what I've done just to make sure that it's not quite too pinky, I've added a little bit of lahmian medium to the mix. So it's a 1 part wash, 1 part lahmian medium, just because it just means that it's gonna give you that recess shade of the kind of reddy bits in the recesses, but it will still give you kind of a very nice bright red after. This is just to give us a nice kind of working base for our next highlight, which is going to be kind of redefine the squig. And once we get to that stage, you can really start to see, again, like the orc skin, you'll start to really define where the squig flesh kind of starts getting better, and it pops more, basically. And now we're on to the next bit. So this is where we're going to basically, as we did with the orc skin when we washed it with our wash, we're now going to reapply a Evil Sunz Scarlett on the top. And this is just to basically cover all the skin. So we're going to leave the recesses in the kind of dark, in the dark shade. But we're basically going to try and cover the higher parts of the skin all in Evil Sunz Scarlett. This is just, again, just to make the skin really pop. And then we can, after that's all done, we can then move on to the next step. And now we're finally onto the final, I think the final stretch for the Squigg Skin. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Jokaero Orange, one of my favourite oranges to highlight squigs with, and we're just going to cover the edges of the squig. So this can be really much like the eyelids, like you can see on where the amplifier goes and the squig mouth begins. I'm going to cover that, the muscles, just kind of any raised area that you can see, which needs defining. And as you can see, just before then, I just kind of did my own line just to kind of define the Squigg Skin. You kind of need to be a little bit neat here, but if you kind of make your own highlight on the side, doesn't really matter, as long as it kind of flows with the model. And when that's done, you can then really see the final bit of the squig, and it just looks quite nice when it's done. And when we can move on to the next step in the process, which I think is going to be quite fun. And now we're on to the toes of the, or I say the claws of the amplifier squig. So what I'm doing on here is just doing a base coat of Abaddon Black just to cover the basic toes, because I think squigs should really have a defining toe, and I think Abaddon Black is a really good start with the hooves, or any kind of squig that you can kind of imagine, really. And then what we're going to do is going to take Dark Reaper and just do a little bit of feathering on the skin, on the claws, sorry. Not too much, just a little bit on the top and the sides, just to give it a bit more of a different colour, just to kind of define where kind of the black, where like the toes have really been worn out, etc., or the claws, sorry. And then the final highlight for the claws would be Fenrisian Grey. This is just to define kind of you can kind of use it, you could say it's kind of to define where the claws are and where they start and finish, and kind of just gives it a final nice little touch when it's completed. And now we're on to the final stretch of the amplifier Squigg. So what I'm going to do is any other metal bits, so that's like the amplifier bits on the sides and obviously the mouth, I'm covering that in a lead belcher. Lead belcher is a very nice colour. I do prefer the original bolt gun metal which Games Workshop used to produce. However, lead belcher is a good replacement, equal replacement I think. So just make sure to water it down and do a couple of thin coats. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on to Nuln Oil. So we're going to Nuln Oil the entire lead belcher metal we've used. So just try and keep it neat. Try not to get anything on the red. And what you'll see is that this will kind of give you, again, like the skin, it will give you a bit of a recess and just give you a bit more definition. And once it's completed, you'll see that inside the little rivets of the amplifier Squigg, that it kind of really starts to pop. And it gives you a nice little base to work on from highlighting after that. And now we're on to the highlights. So anywhere you've put the metal, what I would use is I think for this particular model, until I run out of it, I use Chainmail. Again, an old Citadel Games Workshop paint, just to hit like the edges of where the amplifier is, the bolts on the side. I would say the next best thing to use from Games Workshop would be Stormhost Silver, because it's quite a bright silver, but I still think it will still do the same job. Or even you could even mix a bit of a lighter colour into lead belcher just to give you that kind of similar effect. And now we move on to the teeth. So the teeth on a Squigg, on my particular Squiggs, is a base coat of Morghast Brown, just to give it a little bit of a just to give it a nice crisp cream colour. As you can see on the miniature, and just keep yourself steady on that one. And after that, you do a highlight of Ushabiti Bone just on the tops of the teeth, just to kind of give it a bit more of a highlight after. And this will start to kind of define the teeth of like where it's been worn and when they've been used. And the last highlight would be an edge highlight of Screaming Skull, just literally on the tips of the tops. This is one of the most satisfying bits, because you can finally see where the teeth start to really get more definition, and just it looks quite nice on the tabletop once it's all completed. And then what we can do is we're moving on to the eyes. Now the eyes are very difficult, but just take your time, hold your breath, make sure to get a decent tip, and just hold your breath and just pin it in there. And that was with Abaddon Sunset. After the Abaddon Sunset, I got the same brush, washed it and used Uriel Yellow just to give a bit more of a highlight in the centre. Try and, as you can see, before I missed a bit, so I came up and retouched it with Evil Sun Scarlett, and after that it should be fine. And then after, just the hardest part in my opinion would be just to get a bit of Abaddon Black and just do a slight slit down the middle of the eyes, and using a nail just to kind of sharpen the brush and just make sure it just finishes, as you can see. So you've got a very unhappy or happy amplifier Squigg. And so after the Squigg is now done, we can now start moving on to completing the Goff Rocker. So as you can see, I'm now applying a nice coat or thin coat of Abaddon Black on all the black areas. So that's going to be like the trousers, his jacket, his top hat, anything that you want to be black. Just make sure it's all done in Abaddon Black, because I just find it's a very nice colour. You've got Corvus Black, which is quite cool as well, but I think for Goffs, it's very much better to start with Abaddon Black, just to give a nice base coat to start things off and then go from there. And then after that, I've moved on to Mournfang Brown, and this is going to really hit anywhere where I think it's going to be like leather. So like leather belts, I think mostly on this model is leather belts. So anything like ammo feed, where the Goff Rocker holds his ammo, and just where he holds his trousers up, that's just a base coat of Mournfang Brown. It was either a choice of that or dried bark. But I just like Mournfang Brown because it kind of reminds me of the old snakebite leather, and just it goes on like a charm. So go for whatever you feel looks necessary and cool. And after that, we're now going on to like the silver parts, so like his boots, the metal boot caps on the front, and his skulls on his boots, and also the studs in his jacket. So just take your time on this one. Again, try and do 2 thin coats, just so you get a nice clear finish, or a nice smooth finish. And when you're doing the boots on the bottom, just make sure you're taking your time and not to hit any of the sun squig. Oh, sorry, not sun squig, but the squig itself. And if you do, just basically touch it up with another bit of Evil Sunz. So after that, I would then go on to the next step, which is one of my new favourite colours actually, called Runelord Brass. And that's a really nice colour to kind of do an off goldy silver colour. So just do Runelord Brass on the skulls where his crotch would be, and on top of on where the top hat is, because that just is quite a nice little defining colour, and it's just quite nice to use. The next step is going to be one of the new paints I've used called Word Bearer's Red. It's a very lovely kind of burgundy colour, and I feel that it's really, really good to use with those kind of like a top hat leather strap. Just so I don't want to go too much brown on the model. But with this burgundy colour, it's absolutely lovely, and it goes on like a treat. And once it's all completed, you'll see that kind of really define. It's quite nice to have a bit of a break up between the black and the other colours. So on the ears, you can see he's got two teeth, so basically follow the same process as the Squig's teeth. So Morghast Brown for a base coat. And then we're going on to the eyes of the Goff Rocker. So with this one, I take Evil Sunz, the same brush I use, which is a 000 brush, and just hold your breath and just make sure to get that eye perfect. If you don't worry, just you can take more green and just kind of retouch it up where you've missed it. But practice makes perfect on this one. Practice makes perfect. After that, it's just got to do the pupil, which is Uriel Yellow, and just hold your breath and just count to 3 and just pick it very, very closely. And as you can see from the video, it's just very, very just a little dabs into the eye, and then once you're done and you're happy, then that's absolutely fine, because it does take practice with doing eyes, but once you get there, it's absolutely lovely, and you know, it looks the part really. Now we're going to move on to the orc's mouth. So for my teeth and nails, etc., I always base coat it in Abbadon Black mixed with Elysian Green. This is just a nice colour just to go for the inside the mouth and the teeth and the nails, just because it's a nice kind of darky green, and you know, orcs are very different, and I just kind of like the kind of off black green or dark green inside their mouths. The next step on that is a highlight of Ink by Darkness on just the teeth. This is quite a nice little, I would say, kind of bluey grey, and as you see onwards, it starts to get lighter and lighter, and to the point where we could get to our final highlight, which will be Fenrisian Grey. But there's one more step before that, but it does look quite lovely once it's all completed. So the next step after that would be Ink by Darkness mixed with Fenrisian Grey, just on the teeth and the nails. As you can see from this angle, they start to really pop, and they start to see definition in the teeth, and it's quite satisfying when you see it done. And the last bit is just a straight Fenrisian Grey over the top, and it just makes the model pop, in my opinion. It just really defines the teeth, and it just makes them look kind of their own. And you've got that dark kind of bluey grey at the back and the light teeth at the end, and it just looks spot on. After that, we're just going to do the tongue, which is a base coat of Screamer Pink. Just take I use a 000 brush for this. You can use a 00 if you wish, but I'm still not confident with a 00, so I use a 000 for any kind of that detail. So just take your time, be careful, and just make sure you're not hitting any of those colours that you've already done. If so, just go back and just retouch it, because as long as it's not a major mistake, you can always touch it up, and I'm sure people aren't going to notice it from like when you're close. If you're close up, they might notice, but it's some 3 foot away from a gaming table, they're not going to notice. And the highlight after that is just Empress Children over the top, just literally in a semicircle, just to kind of give it definition on where the tongue is like sticking out, and he's rocking out to any of his tunes that his goth brothers are enjoying. So the next step is going to use one of the GW texture paints on top of the cork, which I spray black, which is going to be Martian Ironearth. Now I found this basing technique from a chap called Zenus Mini, so shout out to him, because I've used this basing technique on all my orcs, and once it's finally completed, it's just for me, it just kind of gives you that proper like orc Martian wasteland feel. And once it's done with the other, once the basing is done, you'll see how defined it looks, and it just looks so unique in my opinion. So after that, you're going to wash the entire model, well, anything apart from the green skin, in Nuln Oil, just because I always like to wash everything down with Nuln Oil, or it could be Agrax Earthshade, which we'll see in a minute. This is just to give a bit of a recess, a bit of a shade, just so you can really use your highlights to an advantage and kind of pick out the key areas, which you'll see in the next step in regards to the model itself. And yeah, it's just a very basic wash of Nuln Oil, and just make sure try to not hit any of the green skin. And yeah, that's basically it. As you see on the kind of goldy silver, I've just used Agrax Earthshade, just a little dab on there, just to give it a bit more defining features, and that's it. And basically just leave it to dry, or get a trusty hairdryer and carry on to the next step. So the next step is going to be highlighting the metal. So this is, again, like the Squigg, will be either using Chainmail or Stormhouse Silver, just on the edges, just to give you a little bit of a definition of all the silver. This includes the boots, the studs, the bullets, anywhere that is metal, just highlight it with an edge highlight. And just as I said before, make sure to take your time and make sure not to kind of get anything on the other parts of the model that you've completed. And then with the kind of silver gold, then use Canoptek Alloy just to edge highlight the model and just kind of pick out his eyes, the kind of the edges, and it just, once you do one edge highlight, it just really makes it pop. And just, that's all you need, one edge highlight, done, and it just kind of makes the model pop. And with the belts, I then went on to Skrag Brown. Just again, you'll have a kind of see that I do edge highlighting a lot, and it just kind of gives you a little bit of a pop where you'll just currently look at them all and go, oh, that's really cool. And it's only literally one base coat, wash, and an edge highlight. You can obviously go for another edge highlight if you really want to, but I just find having one edge highlight is needed, unless it's for skin of orcs, because I think that's just the majority of the colour. But yeah, just do what you wish, really. And the next step is going to be following the teeth for the Squigg. So it's this time it's Ushabiti White on top, and then it will be Screaming Skull onto the top. And then on the hat, we're doing a mix of Wordbearer's Red and a bit of white, just to go around the rim of the hat's leather. This is, again, just gives you a bit of a defining moment for the hat. After that, we're now going to go on to the black itself. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So just take your time and just take the Eshin Grey, and just very carefully do this over the edges of the model. So we're talking like the little pockets in his chest, the entire leather, the outline of the leather jacket. Just make sure to take your time, and if you're not happy, just take a bit of Abaddon Black and Nuln Oil it down, or even you can just like use kind of like water some Abaddon Black down, redo it, put it back over the stuff you're not happy with, and then just go back over with Eshin Grey. The next step is going to be Cadian Fleshtone watered down to kind of be like a glaze, and just go over the top of any of the bruises, the earlobes of the orc, and more importantly, we're going to go for his lips. So some orcs, well, most orcs have obviously a kind of skin tone lip, and this is what I've gone for over here. The next step is going to be on the base, which is going to be Martian Ironcrust. I know this is quite odd for a base, but once the whole model is dry, it does kind of give you a really nice effect of kind of Martian sand, and like it's proper Badlands. So leave that on to dry to naturally dry. I've used hair dryers in the past, but I always feel that it's better to leave it to dry naturally, because you don't want to have like some points where it's dried underneath, but it's kind of spodgy on the top. So just make sure it's all dry naturally, and it will take time, but it's worth in the end, I promise you. And as you can see here, while I've let that to dry, I've gone on to the guitar of the orc, and I'm doing a base coat of Corax White, and I swear by the paint gods that Corax White is one of the best paints, the best basic white paint you can ever use. It goes on so well. I've mixed that with lahmian medium just to kind of nullify the brush strokes as best I can. But once it's almost one coat. You can obviously do 2 coats, but one coat is fantastic over for white for a guitar, and it's lovely. After that, you can go on to the black, which is going to be his wrist strap. So again, just Abaddon Black over the wrist strap. You can do this in 2 thin coats or 1, just depending on what you feel like. As you can see, I kind of got frustrated at the model holder there, but just 1 coat is black. 1 coat of black is enough, or 2 if you fancy. The next step is going to be, again, Runelord Brass on the parts of the guitar, like the knobs, the bottom of the guitar and the top. And then the next part is going to be, I've used this time, Ironhands Steel. Just a bit lighter than Leadbelcher, but just to hit kind of the strings, and the other little bit of doobie wotsits on the guitar. Just so you can kind of have a bit of more defining, not kind of dirty metal, but you're getting to the point where you don't want to kind of mess up. You don't want to do multiple. You want to do different kind of metals, not just stick with one Leadbelcher. You can if you want, but I always like to change it up. And then after that, you want to what am I do? I am doing more Leadbelcher. It looks like. Yep. Sorry, my apologies. So again, I'm doing more Leadbelcher or Ironhands Steel on the top, just to tidy up a few things that I missed, and just to finish it off really. And then we're on to the stick bomb microphone. Again, we're just going to follow the basic steps as we did before. So we're going to do Abaddon Black on the glove, just to give a nice clean coat, because I think most Goff Rockers should have black gloves, or could be blue gloves, whatever you fancy, really. Then we're going to go on to, again, the Ironhands Steel, and go onto the microphone, the bottom part, just because I think silver is a very nice colour in the contrast with the green. And then when we get on to the stick bomb itself, we're going to go back to using Runelord Brass, just to cover it, because I think it's a nice contrast between the silver and the gold, or the off gold. Because I'm one of these people that likes to follow the box art, and I really liked how it looked with like kind of the brassy-esque off silver. And then I'm going to use Ironhands Steel just to do the kind of the studs in his gloves. Don't worry about if you mess it up. You can always go back over with Abaddon Black, just because I know it can be quite fidgety, but you're doing absolutely great. Once you get to this stage, you're doing absolutely lovely. And then the next step is going to be just a Nuln Oil wash over all the metals and the glove. Try not to get any on the green. If you do, you can, like I said, you can always go back and refinish it off. But this is going to give, again, more of a definition to those the recesses of all the kind of the stick bomb and the end of the microphone, etc. And just once it's dry, you can then go back and highlight it with the next recipe and the following technique. And then we're going to take Nuln Oil and we're going to carry that over to the guitar. So it may be odd, the idea, you may be thinking, why is he putting Nuln Oil over the top of white again? This is just because to give it kind of because I wouldn't think orcs would keep their equipment clean, I would say. So rather than using just Agrax Earthshade and just dunning it down to buggery, I'd always kind of use Nuln Oil on white, and then we can highlight that back up to the white that we want. And the next step, as you can see, is taking the Canoptek Alloy and just doing each individual part of the stick bomb individually. Just this will kind of give you a bit more definition. And then the next step is going on to chainmail on top of the washed Ironhands Steel. This is just, again, to give you a bit more definition, and this is also going to be hitting all the studs in the glove of the Goff Rocker, just to give that final bit of a edge highlight. And then we're on to the guitar. So what we're going to do is we're going to reapply Corax White onto the top, but we're going to leave the, as you can see down there, where the Nuln Oil has hit the recesses. We're going to try and ignore that, and we're going to try and clear keep that there to give that the emphasis on that it's still dirty in the recesses, but on the top, the Goff Rocker still tried his best to keep it clean, but to no avail, in my opinion. But yeah, we're just going to try and do our best to keep it clean as best And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some white scar, and we're just going to edge highlight everything across the line. So we're just, anything that you can see which is a straight edge, just take your brush and just do a straight line of white scar over the model. This can be as straight as you want, but I would always try and make sure to, as you can see, I'm quite brave and using the tip of my brush, but most people would do the sides of their brush. But I've done this for so long, I'm just trying to still try and do that way. And then finally on the guitar, we're going to the metal, so we're going to highlight all the kind of Canoptek Alloy, the Runelord Brass start with Canoptek Alloy just on top, just to give it a bit more of a shine. And then once it's done, you'll kind of really see it pop in regards to the shine of the guitar. And that's all on the digits and the knobs and the kind of the spikes on the spelt. And then we're on to the chainmail again, and we're just going to hit it onto the tippy toppies of each and every part of the strings, and the remaining bits of metal that we haven't covered in Runelord Brass. So that's just the strings. Now with the heads of the guitar, with the strings, as you can see, just do it very, very carefully. And you don't have to do them all. Just try and hit a few of them in the middle, and just try and take your time and just be patient and do it in lines, basically. We're on to the final hit now, and we're going to go onto the leather belt of the Goff Rocker. So we're just reapplying a base coat of Abaddon Black, just because when I sprayed it, it didn't cover it completely, and just to give it a better base coverage when we start to paint it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the lead belcher again and just do all the metals of the belt. So we're talking the belt buckle, the bullets on the side, and just try and give yourself a nice clean coat when this is done. Because once this is covered, we want to make sure that it's going to be as best we can. And then onto the leather, which is holding the bullets, we're going to go back to Mournfang Brown and just cover that in detail. Again, I would use a 00 brush for this one, or a single zero, but wherever you feel comfortable with. I've seen people kind of do this detail with a standard brush, but go from there. Once everything is dry, I would apply a shade of Nuln Oil just to give it more of a dirty look, or a kind of darker recessed shade. And again, even going on to the black, it just means it gives a bit more of a defined look, and then goes on to our next step. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take Skrag Brown, as we did for our original browns, and just edge highlight all the tops. Just literally 2 lines on the top of each of the leather straps, and that's all we need to do. Very, very simple, very, very easy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the chainmail again and just do the belt buckle. We're just going to literally just do one. We're going to cover the belt buckle and then just the tippy tops of all the bullets and the casings, and that is pretty much it for that. And last but not least, we're going to do the Eshin Grey highlight on all the black leather, just because we need to keep it all at least highlighted at least. And again, we're just going to cover that with an edge highlight. And as you can see, I've used the edge of the brush just to do a very quick edge highlight of each edge of the miniature. And we're on to the final stretch of the Goff Rocker. So what we're going to do is after the basing is dried, I've taken Jokaero Orange, got on a large dry brush and just dry brushed the entire thing. This is when it starts to become one with the kind of Martian landscape we're looking for, and just give it a nice big coverage. And finally, we're going to take Fire Dragon Bright, which used to be a Citadel edge paint, but over the top, it just kind of makes the model, it kind of gives it that kind of dusty, worn aspect. And then it is completed, apart from one final thing. As you can see, I'm applying the Mordheim Tufts, or they used to be called Mordheim Tufts, onto the miniature. And once that is, once you go to get some pairs of tweezers and just apply them, it just means that you can keep your hands de-superglued, because I have to say, trying to get superglue off your fingertips when doing this hobby is quite frustrating. And I would always suggest using those clippers to apply those tufts in the end of building and painting the miniature. And last but not least, what would be a model without a base rim? So we're taking Abaddon Black and just doing the rims of the Goff Rocker. This is the most satisfying part of the miniature, because you know it's at the final stretch, and you're just going to do a very nice clean coat of black right around the edge. And once it's done, you know for a fact that you've spent a decent amount of time, and it will look phenomenal. Because at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with your painting, that is all that matters, in my opinion. So as long as you're happy with your Goff Rocker, then that's all that matters. And here we have the finished Goff Rocker to slay the enemies of Gork and Mork with Righteous Fury on his guitar and his amplifier Squigg. And he is ready to rock and roll. And there you have it, the Goff Rocker all completed from step A all the way to step Z. I hope you really enjoyed this video. It was the first one that I've really enjoyed, and I really hope that I've inspired you to go out and paint some more green skins, or even pick up green skins for the first time, because that would be awesome. If you've liked this video, if you could please share, like and subscribe to my channel. I will try and get the next video out as soon as I can, and most likely we'll be talking about some of the new things coming out of Arks of Omen. I want to say thank you very much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you on the next time. Take it easy. Bye.